The sky over Earth was darkening as the first sign of invasion. Appeared in the heavens a strange flicker of light that grew larger by the second. The people on the streets of major cities looked up in confusion. Some thought it was a meteor, others thought it was just another satellite passing through. But within moments, the truth became clear. A massive fleet of ships from another world was descending upon them. The alien vessels cut through the atmosphere like knives, through butter, their shapes like jagged claws tearing at the fabric of the sky. Down below, chaos erupted as alarms screamed through city centers. Military personnel scrambled to respond, but they were too slow. The Syndracar had prepared their assault with precision and speed. Before the first missile could even be launched from Earth's defense systems, the invaders released their own devastating payloads, a series of shockwaves that tore through buildings and shattered the ground beneath them. The first wave of the attack was over before the world could even process it. In the heart of New York, the towering skyline was brought to its knees as explosions rained down. The streets were filled with screams and panic. As people rushed for cover, in vain. The invaders had arrived, and their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever faced. The alien ships moved in coordinated patterns, releasing drones that stormed the streets and fired energy weapons that disintegrated everything in their path. Meanwhile, across the world, in Paris, London, and Beijing, the situation was no better. Cities that once stood as symbols of human achievement were quickly reduced to rubble. The Syndracar did not waste time. They moved in with terrifying efficiency, slaughtering and enslaving what remained. The human military was no match for their firepower and advanced tech. Earth's defenses crumbled before the onslaught. Humanity had never faced an enemy like this. At the Pentagon, a group of top military commanders gathered around a large holographic table, staring in disbelief at the projections of the alien ships sweeping across the globe. They had always prepared for threats, but nothing like this. Their weapons were useless against the Syndracar ships. The commanders exchanged grim looks. None of them knew what to do next. Their best-laid plans seemed useless in the face of such overwhelming force. But even as the world seemed to collapse around them, a small flicker of resistance began to form across the globe. Scattered groups of civilians, military personnel, and scientists who had managed to survive the initial attacks started banding together in hidden locations. It wasn't much, but it was something. In a remote bunker in the mountains of Colorado, a former soldier named Marcus was already rallying a group of survivors, armed with nothing but makeshift weapons and sheer determination. He knew the world was going to be destroyed if they didn't act fast. He didn't care that the Syndracar thought of Earth as primitive. He had seen humanity face worse odds before and survive. He wasn't about to give up now. As the resistance began to take shape across the planet, the Syndracar were too focused on their conquest to realize that humanity was far more dangerous than they had ever anticipated. Humans were adaptable, stubborn, and had a way of coming together in the face of adversity. While the Syndracar underestimated Earth's people, the first sparks of rebellion were being lit. And so Earth's fight began, not with an army of highly advanced soldiers or massive fleets, but with ordinary people who would not give in. No matter the cost, they would rise up, even against a force that seemed unstoppable. The invaders had no idea what they had truly awoken. In the days following the invasion, the remnants of Earth's defense forces were scattered, and cities fell into chaos. Across the globe, survivors found refuge wherever they could, from underground bunkers to abandoned buildings. The world had been thrust into a nightmare, but amid the despair, something unexpected began to stir. In hidden corners of the world, groups of survivors began to communicate. Strangers from different nations and cultures, brought together by the singular need to survive, formed alliances. The alien invaders may have thought humanity weak, but they had no idea how resilient Earth's people were when pushed to the edge. Lena, a young hacker from what remained of the shattered New York, was one of the first to strike back. After narrowly escaping the initial wave of destruction, she managed to gain access to a fractured military satellite network. Her fingers flew across a damaged keyboard, desperately trying to connect with any remaining human forces. It was there, in the depths of corrupted data, that she uncovered an encrypted message. A Syndracar signal, one that didn't seem to fit their usual communication pattern. It was a weakness, an opening. For the first time since the invasion, Lena felt a flicker of hope. The Syndracar had left a vulnerability, and she was going to exploit it. Meanwhile, in the ruins of a military base in what used to be North Carolina, Marcus had become the unlikeliest of leaders. Once just a soldier, he now found himself in charge of a ragtag group of civilians and soldiers. Most of them were scared, unsure of how to fight an enemy that seemed invincible. Marcus stood before them, holding up a makeshift rifle he had cobbled together from alien and human tech. "We can't fight them the way they expect us to," he said. "We've got to outsmart them, use what they didn't count on, our ingenuity." The people around him nodded, some reluctantly, others with a newfound fire in their eyes. That fire spread quickly as Marcus led them in covert strikes against the Syndracar, using everything they had, from stolen weapons to homemade bombs. It wasn't much, but it was enough to send a message. Humanity wasn't just going to lie down and die. And then there was Sam, a reclusive inventor from a small town in the Midwest. When the attack first hit, he had been in his workshop, tinkering with old machines and projects that no one cared about anymore. He had never been a man of action, preferring to stay in the background. But when the invaders landed, he saw the destruction unfold on his screen, and something within him snapped. Using his knowledge of both human and alien technology, Sam began crafting strange devices, small drones, EMPs, and weapons that could disrupt the Syndracar's energy fields. He didn't know if they'd be enough, but he was determined to try. Sam's first test came when he sent a drone out to sabotage his Syndracar supply convoy. The drone was small, almost invisible against the night sky, and it was carrying an experimental EMP device that could short-circuit the alien vehicles. It was a long shot, but when the convoy was taken out in a massive explosion, Sam's heart raced. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was fighting back. Word of their successes spread quickly. Lena's hack, Marcus's guerrilla warfare tactics, and Sam's innovative weapons all came together in a delicate web of resistance. The Syndracar, though confident in their technology, began to feel the sting of humanity's defiance. They couldn't fathom how these primitive humans had managed to launch even the smallest resistance, much less hold their own. As the days turned into weeks, Earth's scattered resistance began to coalesce. The world was in flames, but within that fire, something was being forged, a force that no one, not even the Syndracar, could ignore. Humans were not just fighting to survive, they were fighting to protect something far more precious, their home. And they were beginning to understand that together, they might stand a chance after all. As the resistance grew, so did the understanding that Earth had something the Syndracar couldn't even begin to fathom. It wasn't just the raw tenacity and ingenuity of humans that had begun to turn the tide. It was something deeper, something embedded in the very core of the planet. Lena, continuing her hacking efforts, uncovered fragments of old transmissions from the Syndracar scouts, and what they revealed was staggering. Earth was not just a planet to be conquered. It was a treasure trove of untapped potential, a resource they had overlooked in their arrogance. For centuries, the Syndracar had traveled across the galaxy, conquering planets and strip mining them for their resources. But Earth was different. Beneath the surface, Earth harbored a unique energy source that the Syndracar had dismissed as irrelevant, a mere anomaly that didn't warrant their attention. But Lena's breakthrough proved otherwise. Earth's core wasn't just molten rock. It contained a powerful, mysterious energy, one that humans, though unaware of its full potential, were unknowingly connected to. Lena believed that the key to humanity's survival, and possibly victory, was this hidden force. This discovery didn't just change the way the resistance fought. It transformed their entire understanding of the war. Sam, who had spent most of his life as a quiet inventor, was the first to grasp the significance of this newfound energy. Using fragments of old tech and the remnants of captured Syndracar weapons, Sam began to build devices that harnessed Earth's energy. The first test was small, a rudimentary generator that sent pulses of power into a single building. The results were staggering. Not only did it power the building beyond normal capacity, but it also seemed to disrupt nearby Syndracar technology, short-circuiting their weapons and drones. Word spread like wildfire. The Syndracar might have superior technology, but their understanding of Earth was still in its infancy. They had underestimated how interconnected humanity was with the very planet they sought to conquer. Soon, Sam and a team of resistance engineers were working day and night, building more powerful generators, weapons, and armor powered by the planet's core energy. These new inventions gave the resistance the upper hand in their guerrilla campaigns. They were no longer limited to makeshift weapons and basic tactics. They were starting to fight on their terms. Meanwhile, Marcus led an audacious raid on a Syndracar outpost in what used to be California. The outpost was a key strategic position, controlling a network of satellite communications that had been used to coordinate the invaders' operations. It was heavily guarded, and the Syndracar had no idea that humans were capable of anything other than fleeing. Marcus's plan was simple: strike fast, use the new Earth-powered tech to disable the Syndracar's defense systems, and take control. He led a small but highly trained group of resistance fighters in under the cover of night. Using newly designed EMP devices, they neutralized the Syndracar's power grid within minutes, rendering the outpost defenseless. The mission was a success, but it came at a heavy cost. Marcus lost two of his closest allies in the raid, a reminder that the war was far from over. But the victory had a lasting impact. The Syndracar, so accustomed to facing weak and fragmented resistance, were beginning to realize that humanity wasn't just fighting back. It was adapting and learning faster than they could counter. Lina's discovery was the turning point. Earth's potential was no longer a mere rumor. It was a weapon. The resistance had discovered the key to not only surviving, but to striking back in ways that the Syndracar couldn't predict. What the invaders had once considered insignificant, the planet's natural energy, was now Earth's greatest asset. They had woken a force more dangerous than they could have imagined. Humans, united by desperation, and guided by an ancient power that coursed through their world. The Syndracar had only just begun to realize that their invasion of Earth might be their greatest mistake. The first victory of the resistance had sparked something within humanity, a fire that could not be easily extinguished. The Syndracar, despite their technological might, were beginning to realize that Earth was not the helpless planet they had thought it to be. Marcus's successful raid on the communications outpost had given the resistance something far more valuable than just military advantage. It had given them momentum. It was no longer a question of if Earth could fight back, but how much damage humanity could inflict before the invaders regrouped. The Syndracar's leadership, though still overconfident, began to sense that their conquest was not going as smoothly as planned. They had expected to crush Earth's defenses within days, but the Resistance's growing use of Earth's mysterious energy was throwing them off balance. The invaders could no longer rely solely on brute force. Now, they had to think tactically, and that was something they were unprepared for. The humans were unpredictable, adaptive, and stubborn beyond measure. In the heart of what used to be Denver, a critical decision was made. Lina, now a key player in the Resistance, had cracked a crucial part of the Syndracar's communication network. She had intercepted a transmission that revealed something critical. An entire fleet of Syndracar warships was poised to invade Earth's moon, where they planned to launch a massive counteroffensive. The fleet was gathering for what would be a devastating strike, one that could wipe out the entire Resistance in a single blow. But Lina had a plan. Using the new energy-based technology Sam had developed, Lina convinced Marcus and the other leaders that they could intercept the fleet before it launched. The plan was risky. The Syndracar were far more experienced in space warfare, and Earth's remaining fleets were scattered and ill-prepared for an all-out battle. But if they could take out the Syndracar's moon-bound fleet, it would cripple their ability to attack Earth on a massive scale, buying the Resistance precious time. With a team of hand-picked soldiers, Marcus led an assault on a nearby Syndracar spaceport. Their mission was to sabotage the launch facilities and gain control of any remaining ships. Sam had already adapted Earth's energy tech to power human spacecraft, and they now had a fighting chance against the invaders in space. But nothing was simple. The spaceport was heavily fortified, and even with their new weapons, the Resistance faced overwhelming odds. The assault was brutal. Syndracar drones and energy cannons lit up the night sky as the Resistance pushed forward. Marcus and his squad moved swiftly, using guerrilla tactics to disable the alien defenses one by one. Lena worked behind the scenes, hacking into the Syndracar's control systems and planting viruses that took down their shields and automated weapons. The battle was fierce, but it was clear that the Syndracar were not prepared for the relentless, unpredictable assault of the humans. Earth's forces fought not just to win, they fought to survive. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of firefights and near-death escapes, Marcus's team reached the control center. With only minutes left before the Syndracar could launch, Sam's modified ship, powered by Earth's energy, soared into the atmosphere, carrying a payload that would disable the alien fleet. It was a calculated risk. If they failed, the fleet would destroy Earth's remaining space defenses, and the Resistance would be crushed. The moment of truth came when the payload hit its target. The Syndracar fleet's engines sputtered, then exploded in a chain reaction that sent shockwaves throughout the spaceport. It was a massive victory, one that sent the Syndracar into disarray. Their carefully laid plans to invade the moon were shattered, and their military might had taken a significant hit. Humanity had done the unthinkable. They had disrupted the invaders' final push with sheer willpower and innovation. With the fleet neutralized, Earth's Resistance now had a window of opportunity to strike at the heart of the Syndracar forces. The balance of the war had shifted, but the battle was far from over. The Syndracar might have underestimated humanity before, but now they knew better. And Earth's people weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for their freedom, and they were willing to give everything to win. The victory at the spaceport had been nothing short of miraculous, but it was only a temporary reprieve. While the Syndracar's plans to launch their invasion from the moon had been thwarted, the larger war was far from over. In fact, the tension among the Resistance had never been higher. Earth's fight for survival had reached a critical juncture. The Syndracar, humiliated by their loss, were regrouping. This time, they would not underestimate humanity. They had to act swiftly, or the cost of victory would be far too high. As the days passed, Earth's Resistance, emboldened by the success of their last mission, began to grow in numbers and strength. What had once been small, scattered groups of survivors was now a fully fledged global network of fighters, engineers, and strategists working in unison. People from all walks of life, scientists, doctors, engineers, and former soldiers, came together, united by a single cause: to protect their home. But it was clear that if they were to win, they would need to go beyond simply reacting to the Syndracar's advances. It was time for humanity to strike back on their terms. The secret that Lena had uncovered, the hidden energy deep within Earth, became the cornerstone of humanity's counteroffensive. The more the Resistance experimented with the energy, the more they realized how vast its potential was. Sam, now revered as one of the leading engineers of the war effort, had spent countless sleepless nights refining the technology. Earth's energy wasn't just a power source, it was a weapon. It could disrupt Syndracar shields, disable their advanced weapons, and even neutralize the power cores of their ships. Humanity now had the means to stand toe-to-toe with their invaders. But with this new power came an inevitable question. How would they use it? The answer came from an unexpected place. A brilliant strategist, former Navy Commander Rachel, who had been recruited into the Resistance, proposed an audacious plan. One that could either break the back of the Syndracar or leave Earth completely exposed. The plan was simple but risky. Strike directly at the Syndracar's stronghold on their homeworld, the source of their technology, and cripple their ability to wage war. Rachel's plan was bold. It would require every available fighter, every ounce of Earth's new energy-based weaponry, and most importantly, a full commitment from every resistance faction. The Syndracar had grown complacent, assuming that Earth's people would always be inferior, always fighting from a defensive position. But Rachel's strategy turned that assumption on its head. The resistance would take the war to the Syndracar's doorstep. It was time to show them that Earth's spirit was not only unbreakable, it was unstoppable. The plan was set into motion. Lena worked tirelessly, hacking into Syndracar communication networks to feed the resistance false intelligence, misdirecting their movements while Sam completed the final adjustments on the energy weapons. Marcus, having proved himself in countless battles, took command of the ground assault, preparing the final wave of human forces for the invasion. The resistance had one chance. If they failed, the Syndracar would retaliate with full force, and Earth would fall. The final assault was a spectacle of human ingenuity. Ships powered by Earth's energy surged into the skies, dodging Syndracar detection systems. Ground forces moved in synchrony, using guerrilla tactics, stealth, and precise strikes to take out key Syndracar outposts. At the same time, humanity's new weaponry, now at full strength, began to break through the Syndracar's once impenetrable defenses. Earth had become the hunter, not the prey. For the first time in the war, the Syndracar found themselves on the back foot. But as the battle raged, the resistance faced their own internal struggles. The weight of the war had taken a toll. Soldiers were worn out, supplies were dwindling, and even the most dedicated members of the resistance questioned the cost of their fight. Was it worth it? Would they be able to push through? Or would they too be swallowed by the overwhelming power of the Syndracar? The answer came not from their leaders, but from the people, the civilians who had nothing but their will to fight. In the darkest moments, it was the common people of Earth who reminded the resistance of the truth. They fought for a future, for families, for a planet they loved. That was enough. And so the resistance pressed on, with a new sense of purpose. They had seen the depths of human strength, resilience, and unity. With the Syndracar stronghold in their sights, they would strike hard, strike fast, and leave no room for doubt. Earth's people had been underestimated once before. They wouldn't let that happen again. The final assault was set in motion. The resistance, now a well-oiled machine, gathered every last shred of strength for the most dangerous mission humanity had ever undertaken. The stakes were higher than ever before. Earth had taken the fight to the Syndracar, and now the enemy's homeworld, its heart, was the target. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about ending the war, about taking away the Syndracar's ability to conquer and destroy. This was their one chance to cripple the invaders once and for all. The resistance fleet, powered by Earth's mysterious energy, had already made its way into the outer edges of the Syndracar system. It was a blend of humanity's brightest minds and their fiercest warriors, each fighter now infused with the knowledge that the survival of their species rested on their shoulders. The fleet's path was perilous. Every Syndracar ship in the sector would be alerted the moment they crossed into enemy territory. Lena had done her part, weaving a web of misdirection to keep the Syndracar off their trail, but it wouldn't last long. Time was running out. Sam, still the heart of Earth's technological advancement, had designed a series of weapons that could devastate the Syndracar's planetary defense grid. Massive bombs powered by Earth's energy would disrupt the planet's core, causing seismic waves that would tear apart their infrastructure. But even with these weapons, getting close enough to deploy them was another problem entirely. The Syndracar were ruthless, and their planetary defenses were among the most advanced in the galaxy. Marcus, having led countless successful missions, now found himself in charge of the final push. The mission would require every fighter on the ground, every ship in the sky, and every ounce of strength they could muster. Earth's forces were ready. They had been prepared for months, each individual honing their skills in the face of overwhelming adversity. But the final stretch would test them like never before. As the fleet entered the atmosphere of the Syndracar homeworld, alarms blared across the entire planet. The Syndrakar were waiting for them. Massive defense arrays rose from the surface, crackling with energy as they targeted the incoming ships. The first wave of resistance fighters broke off from the fleet and began their descent, dodging incoming fire, weaving between massive towers of alien technology that stretched into the clouds. They had no choice but to push forward. The fate of the Earth depended on their success. On the ground, the Syndrakar forces were already mobilizing. Their soldiers, clad in advanced armor, stood ready to meet the resistance head-on. The battle for the Syndrakar homeworld had begun in earnest. Marcus's forces, heavily armed with Earth's new energy weapons, tore into the enemy lines, their weapons cutting through Syndrakar defenses with ease. Each shot rang out with purpose, a promise that Earth was not done fighting, that Earth would never surrender. The fight was brutal. The resistance pushed deeper into Syndrakar territory, but each step forward came at a cost. The Syndrakar were relentless, and their advanced tech had given them the upper hand in many battles. Yet the humans didn't give up. With each fight, the resistance grew bolder, more confident. They had learned how to turn the Syndrakar's own weapons against them, using the invaders' technology against them in ways the Syndrakar hadn't imagined. Up above, Lena's work was just beginning. She had hacked into the Syndrakar's orbital command network, breaking through their last line of defense. Using the planet's energy against them, she launched a cyber attack that crippled the Syndrakar's communication systems, causing massive confusion among their forces. The Syndrakar were no longer able to coordinate their attacks, and the resistance began to gain ground. But as the final assault drew closer to completion, the resistance faced a harsh truth. The energy-powered weapons Sam had designed could destroy the Syndrakar's infrastructure, but the heart of their power, their leadership, their commanders, remained untouched. If the Syndrakar were to rise again, the resistance would need to strike directly at the core of their empire, the Syndrakar leaders who sat deep within their fortress. The final step of Marcus's mission was clear. He and a small elite force would breach the Syndrakar stronghold, eliminate their leadership, and destroy the central command structure. It was a suicide mission, but it was the only way to ensure the survival of Earth. And as Marcus and his team began their journey toward the heart of the Syndrakar Empire, he knew one thing: humanity had already proven that it could endure. Now, it was time to show the Syndrakar just how far they were willing to go. The final assault had begun, and Marcus's small, elite team was now racing toward the heart of the Syndrakar stronghold. Each step was a calculated risk, each breath an uncertain promise. They had reached the heart of the enemy's territory, where the Syndrakar leadership, the architects of this invasion, remained secure, hidden deep within an impenetrable fortress. But Marcus had a singular goal: to eliminate them, to destroy the very core of the Syndrakar war machine. Their journey through the stronghold was fraught with danger. The further they pushed in, the more formidable the Syndrakar defenses became. Drones swarmed the air, and automated turrets lined the hallways, their weapons designed to vaporize anything in their path. Marcus's team, however, was ready. They moved with purpose, using guerrilla tactics honed from years of fighting a far superior enemy. Each member of the team was a master of their craft. Liam, the sniper, whose calm precision had brought down countless Syndrakar officers. Ava, the demolitions expert, who had a knack for turning any environment into a deadly trap. And Emma, the tech specialist, who had hacked into enemy systems and turned the Syndrakar's own weapons against them. Together, they were unstoppable. But the closer they got to the heart of the fortress, the more intense the resistance became. The Syndrakar, realizing that their leadership was under threat, sent wave after wave of soldiers to stop them. Marcus's team fought their way through each of them, but they could feel the clock ticking. Time was running out. Just a few more levels, Marcus gritted through his teeth, sweat dripping from his brow. We breached the command center, and it's over. The corridor they moved through was eerily silent now, the usual hum of Syndrakar technology giving way to an unsettling stillness. something felt off. Then the door at the end of the hall slammed open with a deafening roar, and the Syndracar commander appeared in front of them. His towering form, clad in impenetrable armor, looked almost like a living weapon. He had been waiting for them. "End of the line, humans," the commander growled, his voice like a guttural snarl. He raised his weapon, a massive energy cannon, and aimed it directly at Marcus. Before Marcus could react, Liam fired, the bullet piercing the air in a perfect arc, hitting the commander's weapon just as he pulled the trigger. The energy blast went wide, narrowly missing Marcus's team. Ava wasted no time, sprinting forward with a bag of explosives, and set them on the door's control panel, the thud of each heavy charge echoing in the metal hallway. Emma quickly connected her portable device, bypassing the security system to activate the charges. "Move," Ava shouted, as the timer on the explosives started ticking down. The team ran, narrowly avoiding the explosion that obliterated the door and sent shockwaves through the stronghold. The command center was now within reach, but they knew that this final push would be the most dangerous yet. Inside the command center, the Syndracar leadership sat within a massive circular chamber, surrounded by towering consoles and advanced weaponry. The air was thick with tension. A dozen high-ranking Syndracar commanders sat in a circle, their alien forms stoic and calculated. But even they were unprepared for what was coming. As Marcus and his team breached the doors, they unleashed everything they had. Blinding flashes of energy weapons, explosive charges that ripped through the air, and a storm of bullets that rained down upon the Syndracar. The command center's defenses faltered under the onslaught. The Syndracar leaders were not accustomed to fighting on the front lines. Their arrogance and reliance on technology had left them vulnerable. One by one, Marcus's team picked them off, each commander falling to the coordinated assault. The resistance had reached the heart of the enemy's empire, and their mission was nearly complete. But just as Marcus closed in on the central command console, a figure emerged from the shadows, a Syndracar general, a massive creature who towered over the others. His armor was scared, a clear sign of past battles, and his eyes gleamed with the cold calculation of a strategist who had seen countless civilizations crumble before him. "You think you've won," the general sneered. "You're nothing but insects in the grand design of the universe. I've seen countless worlds fall. Yours will be no different." Marcus's eyes narrowed, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. "We've already beaten you," he said simply. With a single precise strike, he brought down the general, shattering the Syndracar's final line of defense. As the general's body crumpled to the floor, the command center fell silent. The war was over. The Syndracar leadership had been decimated. With their command structure crippled, the rest of their forces on Earth would soon collapse. Marcus looked around at his team, their faces grim but resolute. They had done the impossible. The invasion was finally over. Earth had won. The silence in the command center was deafening. Marcus and his team stood over the fallen Syndracar general, their heavy breaths the only sound breaking through the stillness. For a moment, it seemed impossible. Everything had come down to this single victory, this one moment when humanity had turned the tide. The Syndracar leadership had been wiped out, their war machine crippled beyond repair. But even as the adrenaline began to wear off, there was no time for celebration. The final phase of the battle had yet to unfold. "Marcus, we've done it." Lena's voice crackled through the comms, her voice filled with a mix of exhaustion and triumph. "The rest of the Syndracar forces on Earth are in disarray. Their supply chains are falling apart, and their command systems are offline. The energy disruptions are working." Marcus nodded, but the weight of what he had just witnessed still hung in the air. "It's not over yet," he replied, his tone steady but firm. "We need to finish this, once and for all. We'll get the bombs to the core. Now's the time." It was the final step. With the Syndracar command structure in ruins, the core of their technological network, the energy systems that powered their entire empire remained their last line of defense. If the Resistance could plant the energy bombs within their central reactors, it would cripple not only the Syndrakar's ability to wage war, but also their entire technological infrastructure. Earth's mysterious energy had proven to be the key. They had one chance, one shot to deliver a devastating blow to their invaders. The Resistance soldiers, now in control of the stronghold, set their sights on the final objective. The bombs were primed and ready, each one designed to release a surge of Earth's energy, taking out the Syndrakar's power cores and rendering their technology obsolete. But even with their victory within reach, the final push would not be easy. Syndrakar soldiers were regrouping, attempting to mount one last desperate defense. Marcus and his team fought through the wreckage, pushing forward with single-minded determination. "Take them out, quickly," Marcus shouted to his team. They had no room for hesitation. Each moment that passed was a moment the Syndrakar could use to rally. As they neared the central reactor, explosions rocked the stronghold, a reminder that the battle was still raging outside. But the Resistance pressed on, focused only on their mission. Lena, working in the command center from Earth, guided them every step of the way. 30 seconds, she warned. "Once the bombs are in place, you'll have to get out fast. The core's going to implode." With only moments to spare, Ava and Liam set the bombs in place, each one carefully positioned to maximize the destruction of the Syndrakar's power grid. Marcus stood guard, eyes scanning the chaos around them. Then, with the flick of a switch, the countdown began. They had done it. "Let's move," Marcus shouted, and his team sprinted back through the corridor. Behind them, the Syndrakar's final hope, their technological heart, was now doomed. The countdown continued, and in those brief seconds as the team ran for their lives, Marcus felt the enormity of the moment. The war that had seemed endless, that had consumed everything they had, was about to come to an end. As they emerged from the stronghold, the ground shook with the force of the blast. The entire Syndrakar stronghold erupted in flames, the energy wave tearing through the air. The explosion was unlike anything the Resistance had ever seen, like the very heart of the invaders' empire had been ripped from its chest. It was over. Back on Earth, the skies above every major city erupted in cheers. The invaders were broken. The final remnants of the Syndrakar forces, scattered and leaderless, had no choice but to surrender or flee. Earth had fought back and won. Against all odds, against overwhelming superiority, humanity had prevailed. The invaders who had come to conquer were now fleeing, their empire reduced to ashes. In the months that followed, Earth began to rebuild. Cities that had been decimated during the war slowly rose again. The survivors, those who had fought and bled for their home, now turned their attention to the future, to a world they had saved, and to a future they would never take for granted. Marcus, Lena, Sam, Rachel, and the rest of the Resistance leadership stood at the forefront of Earth's new beginning. They had not just survived the invasion, they had reshaped their destiny. Earth had revealed its hidden strength, and in doing so, humanity had proven that they would never be underestimated again. The Syndrakar had learned a lesson they would never forget. The will of a planet's people, united in their fight for survival, was unstoppable. As Marcus looked up at the sky, the smoke from the final battle still rising into the air, he knew that the story of humanity's victory would be told for generations to come. And it was a story that would always remind them of their true power, not just their weapons, their tech, or their ingenuity, but their unwavering spirit to protect what mattered most, their home.